Samme, er det ikke? Jeg kan godt ta det, jeg stikker her for det.
Okay, I think now we're actually live.
Oh yeah, now it's live.
Okay, it was the same thing that happened last time where it just took like 2 minutes to go live. All
Oh,
right.
it says it does mention you are streaming.
All
Okay,
right,
there we go.
cool. Let's
Oh, that Jesus
only
Christ,
two
that kangaroo.
viewers. Maybe it wasn't a good idea to get on this early.
What's the time there now?
It's 10:19.
Yeah,
Oh, never mind. Here comes viewers. They're starting to come in.
I assume the Europeans are gonna be pretty happy.
Yeah,
This
this is
like
probably a
prime
good
time?
time for Europeans.
Like prime time for Europeans. Let's see.
Well, I guess let's wait for some people to filter to the chat and make sure everything's working and I'm not talking to the sky and or I don't know, maybe they can't hear me, but they can hear you guys.
The fucking kangaroo.
Yeah, apparently that's a thing in Japan.
If it is, I don't know about it. That's all I'm gonna say.
I it's a thing in Japan. I don't know too much about it. I only discovered it last night, but
The question is, should it be a thing in Hyrule Conquest? Because I don't think it should.
No, please don't.
well, it's a thing in canon, Zelda. So
No.
then again, there's a lot of terrible things in canon Zelda.
I was about to say that is a terrible excuse to put it into Hyrule Conquest.
Can
And it would also
anyone
be
in the
very
chat hear? Okay, cool. Someone says they
Yeah.
can hear us.
Sir, this is a Wendy's.
We
Yeah,
should make
I
this
don't
a
know if
drunk
there's a
stream.
delay between us and the chat, but I don't
Is it
care.
gonna
I'm
be-
tired.
Neff, you want to make this drunk stream?
I'm not actually drunk though. I'm just really tired, and I only slept like 4 hours. But
It's
yeah,
pretty
I
awful.
was I was I was supposed to go to work this morning. They called me out until later, so I suddenly had a few hours to do stuff, and instead of working on Labrina, I decided to just go live in front of the world while I'm exhausted and probably talk about weird shit and lose half my audience from confusion.
I mean,
Um,
sounds like the best kind of plan, honestly.
yeah. All
Man.
right, yeah, just double checking with the chat. Can you hear me and everyone else? Oh, according to Codeman, it's all working. So yeah, no technical issues other than it took like 2 minutes for it to go live. That's a record.
I'd say that's pretty good.
Yeah, maybe YouTube's new live streaming thing is actually better than their old one. Go figure. With all the problems YouTube's been having lately, I'm kind of shocked.
I mean, the next step is to, not have Exos fall asleep for like 2 hours.
I might
like the
fall
next-
asleep for 2 hours. I'm exhausted. The stream will just be all of us snore or Exo and me asleep, and then Deox just going on about I don't know. I don't even know.
How
This
I
is gonna probably be the most disorganized, random, unprofessional stream ever because I don't have a topic.
Well, I have a topic. You can talk about why you hate Labyrinth. That's a pretty good
Oh,
topic.
I guess I should specify that I don't hate Labrina. I just don't like him that much.
So you hate him.
Yeah, I hate.
Yeah.
I've been working on Labrina. I got like half their units in. Uh, oh, what else? Yeah, yesterday I finished animating their kangaroos. If you're a patron, you've seen them, and I kind of went insane.
Jesus. I actually kind of what you've shown so far.
Yeah,
Just not the kangaroos though.
just not the kangaroos. Well, on the bright side, you can gun them down with Zora mages,
That's pretty true.
or if you're also Labrina, you can gun down. I don't know. You can, you can brutally gun down kangaroos in Hyrule Conquest.
Fucking. Why did you have to keep those? Like, out of
Why did
everything
I
you
have
could
to
have
keep
done,
them? I don't know, man. Because
out of everything you could have done, then yeah, why the damn kangaroos?
yeah, I noticed someone with a Stellaris icon in the chat. That's awesome. The little Gestalt consciousness icon. To answer Kevin Rassenshund. I don't know. I do have a job. I actually was supposed to go to my job this morning, but they called me out. I'm going in later. So yeah, I do have a quote unquote real job.
Real job.
Real job is as the boomers call it. I work at a warehouse for anyone interested. I won't dox myself where I work, but I work at a warehouse.
Imagine being like justifying wage slavery and call it a job and be content with that. That is such a boomer thing, guys. Don't. I mean, I kind of like my job, but don't be fooled into thinking that you're not a wage slave, because that's pretty much what you are. don't go around thinking, oh, I have a real job. I'm contributing to society.
Can kangaroos jump off cliffs? I mean, they'll have, when we get abilities into the engine, they'll probably have an ability to, like, leap really far. I don't know if they'll actually be able to leap up cliffs, but I don't know, maybe they can leap off cliffs and kill themselves.
Yeah, I was just about to ask. Can they jump off cliffs?
Jump off cliffs.
Damn it,
I think you're more upset over the labyrinth kangaroos than I am, and I'm
actually
I'm upset
really
over
upset.
them. That's really funny.
I'm actually really upset. The
Yeah.
thing is, I don't know. Like, I know they were in the
Here's a question: are they worse than the motorcycle in Breath of the Wild?
Yes.
Wow.
I actually think they are. I actually think they are. And you know, here's why. Here in the
Wow, I
games.
think Deox and I finally have hit an impasse.
Now, here's the thing. Like, I can see the motorcycle in Breath of the Wild, right? It can work in the context of that. And here's another thing. The kangaroo can kind of work in the context of its game, but it does not work in Hyrule Conquest at all. It makes me feel uncomfortable. Like, I just don't think it works at all. You have like this relatively serious game, and then you have this fucking kangaroo with gloves hopping about.
I kind of agree with you there. I don't know. Maybe I'll axe them, or I'll make them like a cheat code unit.
Yeah, just I don't know. I think you have this very specific like theme going on with Labyrinth, and then you have this fucking kangaroos hopping about. Like,
don't pretend the British Empire, if they could weaponize kangaroos, they probably would have.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's true, but there's a reason why they didn't. So, you know, maybe if they did, I would have a different a different perception of it, but I don't. So
also, do keep in mind, Ricky is, as far as I can tell, he's sentient.
Oh.
That's like making it worse for you.
Oh. This is why the Capcom games will never become relevant again in the Zelda timeline or canon at all.
Watch the third Breath of the Wild game will be like a direct sequel. It'll be like the Oracle of the Wild or something.
Oracle of the Wild.
Yeah. Capcom will be back. Oh, it'll be great. I mean that sarcastically, but to answer Rolf Do, yes, the bears are still part of Labyrinth. They are their cavalry unit. They have a bear chariot. What else do they have? They have some other bear unit I can't think of off the top of my head. I think it's like a wagon or something.
Yeah. I mean, the bears are okay, I think. Like, the bears are
What about Moosh?
Okay, well, okay-ish.
Those little tiny wings. Yeah, I don't think I can ever play the Oracle games again. I think I would.
Wind Waker is reminding me, the fucking kangaroo is talks. He just messaged me on Discord like, "Oh, remember the kangaroo talks."
Yeah, all three of the companion creatures in the Oracle games, they all
I know.
talk.
I just trying
Even
to
the
suppress...
Dodongo.
Regarding the bear though, I don't quite remember, but there is a bluish bear actually in Breath of the Wild. One of the variants of the bears in that game is blue.
I don't remember. I never finished Breath of the Wild, and I never will.
Yeah, there's
I'll
a blue
probably,
bear.
if there is a blue bear, I'll stumble on it during research eventually for looking
There's.
for more wild animals to add. But
I'll post it in the Discord. It's actually, well, it's more like blackish with a bluish hue, I guess. But
may it'll just be a variant of Labrina's bears. Then I don't know. I mean,
they
there's
have
gonna be
huge.
wild blue bears too for Labrina maps, just like there'll possibly be wild kangaroos.
Oh. Can you at least have any unit that uses a boomerang can just one-shot kangaroos?
Well, the Zora have a boomerang unit.
Yeah, exactly. They just
The
one-shot.
one shot the kangaroos. I love how fucked the Zelda series is now.
Well, yeah.
It's hilarious, like everyone's just like like for the last few weeks, everyone's just been having a complete meltdown over Star Wars and how Disney's just completely ruined and buttfucked Star Wars, and I'm just like, man, a lot of the things you're complaining about have happened in Zelda.
Wind Waker.
like literally what they've done to Palpatine, what they've done to get what they did to Ganondorf, which just I find hilarious. It's I can guarantee it. Like other series are gonna start doing similar things now. It's not just gonna be like Zelda and Star Wars. Like, just to put things into context, Palpatine and Ganondorf, they used to just be like some random guy who basically learned like evil wizard magic and took over the world, or I guess the galaxy in Palpatine's case, and then they like weren't like they basically both series turned them into like some cosmic evil that can never be killed, and they're like super ancient
Yeah.
and they can't die. Like I think Palpatine, and I haven't seen the new Star Wars movie, but from what I've heard from everyone, basically they make it so that if Palpatine like gets killed out of anger, he just like comes back even stronger. And I'm like,
Don't
man,
cry,
this
Jeff.
is really reminding me of what they did with Ganondorf and Demise. And
But Neff, don't cry. Nothing's ever really gone.
no one's ever really.
No one's ever really gone.
I bet you in the new like Star Trek Picard show, like somehow they're gonna like clone or like resurrect Khan, and he can never die or something. And you find out Khan is like some ancient evil in the Star Trek universe that like predates his eugenics or whatever.
Yeah. That's kind of what you should do though with Sulcaris. You know, they're celebrating her death, and then you have a character come up and say, "No one's really ever gone."
No one's ever really got. No, Sulcaris is dead for good.
Until the Goma, like at the end of Hyrule Conquest, at the very end, the Goma's crawling around. Hint, hint.
The funny thing is, Sulcaris is a cosmic character in the context of Hyrule Conquest. Like,
Yeah, that's true, but
yeah,
no,
she
no
actually
one's ever...
she is a cosmic character. So if there was a character who could never die, it would be the first sages. But someone in the chat mentioned I just lost it because the chat went down. Where was it? Maybe they removed it. Oh, there it is. I've not played your Legend of Zelda game yet, but I love your Star Fox game. Yeah, thank you. I love my Star Fox game too, even though I never ever really get to work on it much. I'm glad people care about the Star Fox game.
Where's Star Fox?
I do work on it, but barely compared to Hyrule Conquest. There's just not enough of an audience to really justify working on it much. I don't even think we made it 15 minutes and Exo fell asleep.
What? No?
Oh, he's there.
Still here?
He's there.
Oh, Exo, are you alive?
Hey, you guys can talk about the kangaroo.
Did you fix the AI yet?
Oh, shut up.
Gotta make some nice AI for the kangaroo.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. Might as well.
Yeah, I might have Labyrinth done in like just a few days at this rate.
Really?
I have like
What
half
about
their
the
units
heroes
done
though?
already. Oh yeah, I need to rig and make low poly versions of their heroes. Well, maybe not a few days, probably like a week.
Did you decide on the tank yet though? Are you going with Leonardo design actually, or were you just memeing?
I just want to get rid of the tank.
To be fair though, I would say that's a pretty good compromise though. To
Yeah,
use his or something inspired by his design. I think that's a decent compromise.
yeah. I don't know. I can't think. I'm so tired, dude. I don't even know why
Yeah,
I'm live streaming. I'm so tired.
I'm so. Come on, you can go to sleep and dream of the tank and what you should do with the tank.
Don't you still
I
have
mean,
to do their sounds and stuff? Yeah. By done, I didn't mean like completely done. I meant I'll have all their units and buildings done. They'll be playable basically.
yeah.
Andros is never dead. Actually, of all of the Nintendo series where they pointlessly bring back their villains, Star Fox has only brought back Andros once. Like, through weird ancient magic shit. I mean, I guess they technically brought him back again in Zero, but that's kind of a reboot.
Yeah,
On the
that's true.
topic of Palpatine in this chat, is Aghanim's resemblance to the character intentional? Do you mean his appearance or like his like backstory? Because in Nintendo canon, I mean, I don't think I really changed his appearance too much from his canon appearance, and I guess his backstory in Nintendo canon isn't really like Palpatine. I mean, it
I think it's
kind of
more its
is.
appearance, kind of the archetype,
Yeah, he's like
creepy old
some
man.
political guy who takes control. Uh, although in Star Wars he kind of did it legally, whereas in A Link to the
Ish.
Past I'm pretty sure. Well, in the mangas he murders a king. I can't remember if in the game it said he actually kills the king of Hyrule or I mean I'm certain he did, but so they're kind of similar in that like they're a political figure that has like dark sorcery that takes over the known universe, but
Yeah.
um
I mean,
and they both shoot lightning, so I wouldn't be surprised if they got the inspiration of Aghanim from Palpatine. I mean, there seems to be a lot of things in Zelda that are loosely inspired by Star Wars.
well, yeah. I don't know. Aghanim is. It's, yeah, Aghanim is something. Like in the game, he is kind of just there. You go and whack him with your magical sword device. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, I think his kind of archetype could have had more potential in an action, fully fledged game in terms of story. I mean, A Link to the Past is a bit old, so he's just kind of there. You just whack him after you get the pendants, and that's. So I would just say he's like very loose representation of that, hooded warlock figure at court that laughs. Yeah.
As Codeman pointed out, they're both grandfathers of a female protagonist. That is true. Although I did that like what years before Star Wars did. I don't know. Maybe Disney has their eye on freaking Nephy. Nah.
I
See, what did Nephy think about Starlink? I've never played Starlink. I've heard that it's oddly enough the best Star Fox game, but I will never accept giant-headed talking animals next to realistic humanoid characters. I think the idea. Well, I don't know if the idea, but like I don't know. The game looks really really dumb, but that's basically what every new Nintendo related thing. I mean, Star Fox is kind of dumb to begin with, but I do not understand why the Star Fox universe is now canon with Ubisoft's. I guess it's the Atlas universe or whatever.
mm,
I don't know. So
don't question it.
I've never played Starlink. I don't plan on playing it. I don't really like the toy idea. The game was, clearly made for kids. I'm not gonna fault them for that, but it. Although I've heard it's ironically the best Star Fox game, so I don't know. Maybe it is.
Miyamoto just killed Star Fox with Zero. Honestly, he stabbed it in the crib. Now it's dead.
The thing is, I went back to Zero, I think like a month ago, because it'd been a few years, and the game, honestly, I mean, the control scheme is kind of retarded, but it's not terrible. It's just nobody asked for it, and it has really bad voiceovers. But
terrible.
Graphically, it looks okay.
No.
I mean, graphically, it looks better than any Zelda game ever made. So at least it has that going for it.
Just don't pay attention to the background and you'll be good.
Yeah, it's not that good. It's not. Let me put it this way: it's not as terrible as I remembered it when it came out, but it's not. I don't know. It's still not that good. But
I think it doesn't help that we hadn't gotten any Star Fox related for a while, and then they come out with it, and it was just tremendous disappointment.
Yeah, I think. I don't know.
I think it's mainly that.
The vibe I get is nobody who works there has any interest, and they only dig it up every 10 years to keep their rights to the IP. Although they haven't done that with F-Zero, and it's been like over a decade since F-Zero.
I think it's a terrible game. I think it's a terrible, like, terrible.
Wow.
And I think Shigeru Miyamoto is a goblin.
We're gonna get banned off of YouTube. No,
like the thing with Miyamoto is, I respect him for the work he did back in the day, but it's pretty obvious that he doesn't really have any understanding of what gaming is now and what gamers enjoy.
I don't know if I can respect him because there's so much what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, we don't know exactly what he actually did. How much of it is true and how much of it is just, the video game press bullshit, because as I've learned more about the man, it really seems like he just randomly comes along and throws random ideas that they maybe go with or don't. It really doesn't sound like he's like the central creative figure that people make him out to be. So I honestly don't know if I can even respect him, because it's possible most of our conception of the man is just a lie.
Yeah. I heard he's really difficult to work with, apparently. There was a buzz on some Japanese message boards a few years ago where apparently some people came forth, obviously anonymously, but they claimed that they worked at Nintendo and they've been in contact with Miyamoto, and apparently there were a few horror stories to surface that he's extremely difficult to work with. And
I mean, there's that famous thing with him and I can't remember. It's one of the Mario RPGs where he literally told them to scrap their entire story because he thought it'd be too complicated for people or whatever. I'm like, that's terrible.
That's pretty.
That's terrible.
I mean, that's what happened to Four Sword Adventures as well.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna outright say the man is like a hack fraud, but he might be a hack fraud, and no one will ever accept that. I've joked that whenever Miyamoto finally passes away, there are going to be suicides. There's going to be people that kill themselves over his death because they love the man so much. I'm calling it now. There's going to be suicides. There's going to be people so depressed over the man's death that they're going to just... Yeah, the man is like a living god right now. And I don't know how much credit he actually deserves. So I don't know. You say you can respect him. I actually don't know if I can, because I don't know how much of his backstory is true and how much of it has just been disgustingly exaggerated by the gaming press.
Yeah, it's it's. I mean, it's possible that it's all bullshit. I mean, but you
And
know, some of
it's not
the
just him. It's the industry in general. He's just like the biggest example I can think of.
yeah.
I mean, I've stumbled over probably close to hundreds in the last 25 years that I've participated in games media. I've stumbled literally over hundreds of articles over just how this man like changed everything and means so much to everyone. And I mean, even was it Warren Spector who said that Miyamoto put his hand on my shoulder and it made me a better game developer.
Oh.
That's pretty religious language, but
There are some things that I'm really confused about. Like, speaking of developers at Nintendo, how the hell did Aonuma become the director for Zelda and the producer? How? The guy's a carpenter. I'm not hating on carpenters. I just think it's so weird that this random guy
this random carpenter
he had like no relationship with video games prior to joining the company, and suddenly he's the director of one of its flagship franchises. It's just so weird to me.
To be fair, it seems like at least he's more involved with Zelda than Miyamoto ever was. Regardless what you think of the man's direction, obviously I don't like the direction he's steered the train in, but at least he seems like he's actually involved.
Oh yeah. I've said it before. I actually don't dislike Aonuma. I think I don't necessarily agree with everything he does, but I still think he's a pretty good developer in terms of like what he actually puts in. He puts a lot of effort into his project.
Although he said similar things like, we just ignore the timeline until the game's done.
But he also famously contradicts himself all the time, so I'm not even sure if you can even take what he says at face value. He might just be trolling.
The thing is, I don't have an issue with, like, say a developer has been working on a series of games for like 20 years and they care about it, but they're not like autistic about it. Like, they don't care if like everything matches up or if they make mistakes or like they change their mind or they contradict themselves. That part doesn't bother me. What I retain that what has always bothered me is like fans putting everything on a pedestal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like the core that he has for Zelda is not a bad one there, where they are intentionally ambiguous with the lore to encourage speculation. I don't think that's a bad idea at all. I think it's a pretty good idea. Are they taking it a bit too far sometimes? Yeah, I think they are. But it's not a bad design philosophy at all. I think it's perfectly fine. But there are some things that I don't agree with, but I think like the idea behind their philosophy is completely valid.
Someone asked would I choose Breath of the Wild or Death Stranding. I'd probably pick Death Stranding because at least it's hilarious, and it's not taking something I love and like fucking it up with weirdness. But Death Stranding is pretty cringy.
You're making Hyrule Conquest, and you're having something to say about weirdness?
Yeah. I'm also, despite how bizarre Death Stranding is, I'm pretty sure, like, I don't know, maybe not. I don't know what to think of Kojima, and again, I don't know how much credit to actually give Kojima. I feel like there's more of him in that game than there is of Miyamoto in any Zelda game, though. Like, Death Stranding really does feel like the product of one madman.
I don't know.
Princess Beach.
I guess that's true, but no, actually not. Fujibayashi, you can really feel his influence in Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild. Like, I know, I can smell that it's his game. Like it's
because they're wacky and shit, like the Oracle games, which had boxing kangaroos. Sorry, I get coughing even though I'm drinking water.
You're dying.
Yeah, I'm not even sick today, but It turns out oh, hang on a second.
Oh, that's
I don't know
Hyrule
why I'm
Conquest.
coughing.
Creator dead.
DSP here. Turns out it was his idea the kangaroo was his idea all those years ago, just like Hylia.
Fuck. He really likes Hylia though.
Yeah, I don't know why they came up with Hylia, but whatever. She's part of it now. And she ended up being a positive for Nephy canon, so it worked out in the end, I guess.
I guess that's true. I mean, the idea for it is not bad. I think the idea is perfectly fine. It could have been implemented better. That's pretty much it. Like, the idea is, I'm perfectly okay with the idea. It's not a bad idea at all. Yeah, again, it's just implementation really of the idea.
Yeah, execute. I don't know. I really I still think it was always a bad idea to make Ganondorf like some kind of cosmic antagonist that can never be killed. I just think that's always a bad idea unless like a villain is established to be like that from the very start.
Yeah.
And even then, I don't know. Even then, I don't know. I'm just rambling on now because I'm tired. Gnostic Death Stranding. I guess depending on which ending you choose, Death Stranding can be Gnostic or it could be the exact opposite. If you choose the extinction ending or whatever, I guess Death Stranding instantly becomes Gnostic.
You should have multiple endings to Hyrule Conquest, actually.
No, I'll probably have one ending.
No. You have two endings. You have one for the materialists,
Let's
so you can
see if
rake
the,
in all the bugs.
if the Goma returns to the sequel Breath of the Wild, will you play it? Nah, I the only way I'll ever play the sequel is if I get the Spoonie goal on my Patreon. If I get 5,000 a month, I'll play Breath of the Wild 2. I'll do a live stream of it. Otherwise, I'm never gonna play it.
If you're not gonna play it, I'm gonna stream it for you. I'm gonna stream
No,
it.
I'm done. I'm done. I'm not.
Live commentary.
Breath of the Wild was the final straw. I haven't played.
Yeah, but you don't need to play it. Just need to watch it.
No. Nah, I don't want to.
You
Well,
can watch Deox.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure just through osmosis, I will hear and see stuff about the second one. But I really don't. I'm not interested.
Actually, do you think it's a good idea, right? It's just it's a
I think
fabulous.
it's awesome. It's a great
Yeah,
idea.
It's a great idea, actually.
No, I'm
Live
not gonna
commentary.
play it.
Watch
I
him
haven't
suffer.
played the Link's Awakening remake, which everyone seems to have already forgotten about. I haven't
Yeah, but there's the
played.
thing, you don't need to play it. You just need to watch me play it.
I'm not going to. Sorry. You can tell me about it if you want, but no, I have no interest. I'd rather be productive.
I mean, I think it's pretty productive.
No,
Fucking
I
evil.
feel like playing or watching the new games and just getting upset over what could have been is just a waste of time at this point. It is a waste of time and energy. I've literally I've been drained over the last decade. Sorry, I'm getting spam texts. We have a new proposed location in downtown San Diego. Maybe that's Loopy messaging me. But oh man, I'm so tired. This is probably the most unprofessional stream ever.
You know, we say that every time, right?
Yeah,
I was about
it gets more unprofessional each time, and I'm not even
Do
drunk.
you want to make this another meme? I mean, honestly, at this point, it's almost becoming another meme.
I don't know.
Most,
Should we keep talking about a game I'll never play, or is there any particular subject?
Yeah,
Or
did you
maybe we
actually-
should just switch to
did you
Q&A.
actually- Did you actually model the tank?
No, I haven't modeled it yet. I spent yesterday, just all of yesterday, on the kangaroos.
Oh my god,
That
that is unproductive.
is
You could
unproductive.
be watching, you could be watching me stream Breath of the Wild,
No.
but instead you're making kank.
I would rather model and animate boxing kangaroos than play the new Breath of the Wild game, which will probably have kangaroos in it. That would be hilarious. You fire it up, and then, like, assuming there's, like, some kind of, like, opening tutorial area, you get out, and there's just boxing kangaroos running around. I would laugh.
I will kill myself.
Then you'd be like, okay, Neph, I'm done streaming. You just shut it off right away. You return the game to GameStop.
I will kill myself if that's it.
That would be hilarious if there was boxing kangaroos in the next Zelda game.
I really hate the kangaroo.
I can tell you hate them.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not too surprised, but I'm kind of surprised. Like, you're not even like, I don't know, maybe Neph will make them interesting somehow. You're like, no, fuck them. They're just a bad idea. And I kind of agree with you, but I think I can make them acceptable. If I can't, they'll just become a cheat unit, and the code will be something like Deox's Nightmare, I don't know, something like that. Actually, I see a few questions in the chat. What if Nephy canon is Nintendo's universe? That's up to Nintendo, I guess. Speaking of Breath of the Wild, what will be the roster for the Guardians? The Guardians, they'll be kind of like what game is it? Well, I guess I'll just describe them. With the Guardians, they'll probably have fewer units, but their units can basically switch between different configurations, like, on the fly. So, like, you have a guardian with, like, a sword arm, and you can have it switch to a guardian with, like, a ranged projectile on the fly. I mean, it's not, like, free. It probably costs resources for them to switch the weapons that they use. They'll have, like,
cost souls.
It costs souls. Yeah, they'll have like 5 to 10 like different holes, I guess you could call them, that they can pick from that can mount like different weapons and stuff on them. I think they'll actually be a really cool faction after they've been through the Nephy blender. So yeah, I actually, even though I hate the Guardians canonically, I actually think kind of like highly. I think I'll actually be able to do something interesting with them.
You know what the big irony with the Guardian is?
What's the big irony?
Like I think the Neph blender on them is pretty cool actually, but you know, if you're gonna when you play them in the game, you're still gonna get that odd feeling in the back of your mind that this kind of feels like an alien invasion.
I don't know, maybe we'll see.
Full circle.
I won't. I mean, they might end up feeling like that. I won't know until I actually play them.
War of the Worlds.
War of the World. Well, yeah, I guess aesthetically, there's no avoiding the whole tentacle thing. But I guess I could just completely get rid of the tentacles and they just like flop around. Nah. Let's see. I saw a few more questions. Who is the hottest Zelda waifu and Hyrule Conquest waifu? I guess in Nintendo canon, it's probably Midna. In Nephy canon, I don't know. I don't know if I have a strong opinion about Nephy canon. I don't know. I'm so tired I can't even think. This is probably a bad idea to stream this early.
No, it's a terrific idea.
Nephy, you forgot your medicine. Nah. Maybe those were the only questions, or I don't know. I'm really terrible at like keeping up with the chat thing. It like keeps zooming around whenever I like start reading something, and then it just it, like goes down, and I lose track of what I'm reading.
Here's a good question.
What?
What will the main gimmick of the River Zora, and what will their weakness be?
The main gimmick of the River Zora, that's kind of random, but the main gimmick will be that everything of theirs is always mobile. So yeah. All their buildings will perpetually be able to walk around, but they can still like train units and research their techs. And they have no territory. They don't care about territory at all because, they're completely mobile. And River Zoras will start any match with all of the shorelines of a map being visible. I don't think it'll be like completely visible, but it'll be explored, so they kind of like know where the shorelines are. Their drawback, their weaknesses will probably be they suck. I know that's kind of a vague answer, but I don't know. Their buildings will probably be pretty easy to kill or destroy.
That's how you sell a new faction, guys. By the way, you introduce a cool mechanic and then you say, yeah, but they're gonna suck. So.
Oh, someone asked the River Zora question in the chat. I mean, that's
Yeah.
where you got it from.
Yeah. I didn't just think of it.
Oh, okay, I thought you just randomly were like, "Hey, River Zoras." That's wow, that's random. No, that was in the chat, I guess. Let's see. Do you have any ideas of what Malice units will be? Yes, I have. So I have ideas for Malice. Malice will be a captured or converting faction, kind of like the Stalfos and Aghanim, where they transform other things to suit their purposes. So yeah, I'm kind of excited for Malice too. Nephy's interpretation of the Malice. Let's see if there's any more questions. I'm not seeing any more questions other than can we have female Wosu? I'm assuming female Wosu exist. I guess you meant as a unit. I don't know. The Wosu Knights are mercenaries. I don't know. Maybe if I can get drunk enough, I'll have a female one. I don't know.
Sounds like a bad idea.
Yeah.
Sounds like bait.
I haven't heavily developed the Wosu society, so I don't know. They're kind of on the periphery of my mind. They're kind of just like an order of dudes in armor that go around searching for they're like actual medieval knights. They find a lord to pledge their service to, and they get paid. Actually, we're getting quite a few questions this time. Hydrax says, I guess since we're on the topic of faction mechanics, what would the main gimmick? I assume they mean what would be the main gimmick of the Volvagians. They have like
they're not playable.
They're not playable. Assuming the Volvagians do become playable, they'll have a lot of really powerful creature units. They will have, I guess, kind of like the River Zora. Their drop off points will be completely mobile. They have like a Dodongo unit that like carries around like kind of like cargo carriers that they can drop resources off, and their starting roster is basically a bunch of enslaved Gorons. So they haven't been quite as worked out as some of the other factions, which is why last time I was flirting with the idea that they might be demoted to a minor faction, but yeah, something like that. Lots of powerful creature units, really expensive creature units. They're all immune to fire, but that's not really unique to them, I guess. The Gorons are also really resistant to fire too. Several factions are actually. Let's see, so will Malice be compatible with all factions then? Yes. Yes and no. To quote Deox. What will Volvagian's gameplay be like? I kind of answered that question for someone else. Assuming you mean you don't know. I'm not sure what that's in context to.
I mean, their gameplay will be that you get to watch the AI play them because they're unplayable. That's the gameplay.
Yeah. Who's the best villain in Zelda and Nephy canons? In Nintendo's canon, I guess it depends on what interests you. Like if you're talking about the most threatening villain, Majora in Nintendo canon, hands down. Like I don't think they've ever made something quite as threatening as Majora in any game. In most of Nintendo Canon's games, especially the more recent ones, the villains tend to be really passive and like don't really do anything, so they don't really feel threatening. Like well, one Gear him's just kind of a klutz, and he's beaten back by Impa, and Demise is basically play whack-a-mole with Demise like 3 times. You never really feel threatened by them. And then in Breath of the Wild, while the Calamity Ganon certainly looks intimidating, he kind of just sits in the center of the map and does nothing the whole game. So there's never really like this looming threat that if you don't take care of it. Whereas in Majora's Mask, while the moon's falling, and even though Skull Kid's technically like the puppet of Majora, even Skull Kid is interesting too. So in terms of like the most threatening villain in Nintendo canon, definitely Majora. As far as like the one that's done best, probably Ganondorf between Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, and Twilight Princess, with a slight bias towards Wind Waker just because they actually gave him a little bit of a backstory.
Wind Waker Ganondorf, hands down.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's a contest on that regard.
Although, in terms of accomplishing things, Vadi gets some stuff done, even though I don't really care about him as much as I used to. So most other Zelda villains are pretty forgettable. For some reason, I like Aghanim, even though he's really one note, and I guess he's technically Ganon in a Nintendo canon, but I think I just like his design and his setup. I don't know. In Nephy canon, I kind of like all the villains. To different degrees, so I don't know. I guess there's a best. That's my favorite in Nephy canon, though. I like Ganondorf in Nephy canon. I like. I mean, I haven't done it yet, but I like his whole arc, his whole character arc. And I talked about it with you like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I found I think I found a really interesting way to use certain imagery related to Ganondorf.
Oh yeah.
But Neff, is a completely different question here. Have you prepare yourself.
Okay.
No, but
I keep forgetting you're here. I think you're asleep. I keep
wow.
thinking you're asleep because you're
I'm
so quiet.
I'm not important. You guys heard it here first. Okay,
Aw.
so have you ever had where while you were writing your story, because I mean obviously you're collaborating with Diox sometimes, or at least I would assume you come up with parts of the story by yourself, and then you give it to Diox, and then he edits it here and there. Just confirm that for me if you will.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
Diox
have
has
you ever,
edited things.
I am that, when George Lucas was making the original trilogy, and he's like, guys, we need more trade talk.
Yeah.
A lot of
Diox
trade
is
talk.
like, no, Nephy, no, keep the steam tank, no. No,
Well,
Nephy, this is not your fan fiction for Lincoln Saria. No, bad Nephy, bad.
so have you ever had where you were actually writing your story and that you are, it sounds a bit weird, but that you are exploring your own story, so you don't even really know what you're going to write?
Yeah, there's moments where I'm definitely like, man, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. There's definitely, I mean, there's still points that I haven't completely decided on. So I mean, technically the whole story was like that before I started. It's just that it's been years and years and years since I went through that process. Like this stuff has been kind of in my brain for like a decade now. Um, and, obviously a lot of it's changed retroactively.
Well, I'm asking because while I was reading and writing a bit myself, and also reading some comments from certain writers, they were mentioning quite often how much they hate some of their own characters.
Oh,
Uh,
I hate Mido especially. Like
and it's
hands
kind of
down, I hate
ironic,
Mido.
right? It's kind of ironic because I mean, you are writing your own characters, so to say, but the
Yes.
way that certain writers are writing about their own story, like they're judging their own story, and they kind of go, "Yeah, I mean, actually really hate this guy, and I didn't even know that the story was gonna go this way." It's just, which is you know, it's kind of weird to say that as the writer yourself, but I've had that experience myself a few times where you can still continue to write about a character even though you think it's absolutely ridiculous and he should just die, but you still keep him alive for story's sake because you want to keep it realistic, I suppose. But then you are gonna think, okay, well, how did I even get to this point? Why would I mean, obviously you can write a villain, right? But you can still write an interesting villain. But I'm talking actually about characters that you yourself thought up or just wrote into your story, but you just hate them so much, and
Yeah.
you have the power to just outright kill them, but you don't do it. I think that's
Yeah.
kind of funny. And
That's Mido. I hate Mido, and I want him dead, but he's still alive. He's been
you keep
almost
him
killed
alive.
like 3 times.
Why do you hate Mido? I mean, he's just been misunderstood.
Cause
Childhood trauma.
he's just he's a douchebag.
Yeah, childhood trauma.
Yeah, he just looks like a douchebag too. I just not even just a Nephy canon, even in Nintendo canon, I don't like Mido.
Yeah, that's what I mean with childhood trauma. You played Ocarina of Time as a wee little lad, and this bastard comes up and cock blocks you when you want to go and explore, and you're like, "Fuck."
Yeah, the subject you brought up, that reminds me of I think one example of that was actually Claudius in William Shakespeare. Apparently, he really hated the character of Claudius in Hamlet. Yeah. Oh, I mean, assuming he actually wrote it. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff about how Shakespeare probably didn't actually write his plays, but I don't know what to trust anymore. But assuming everything I've read and heard of about Shakespeare is true, he apparently really hated Claudius in Hamlet. I don't know why, but I guess he just hated that character a lot.
I think
Anyway,
I think it takes a certain strength to write characters that are either incredibly ideologically with odds with your own like
like
worldview, and
Hylia.
also just yeah. I think that takes
The
a
thing
certain strength.
is, I can sympathize with Hylia's view because I've wanted to erase some of my history before. I've wanted to erase my old crappy games, so I can understand Hylia in Nephi canon.
But are
But
we?
I won't erase my history because I feel like it's not a good thing to erase history, as bad as it is. Even in a fictional context, I feel like you really should try to preserve the continuity of something, and if you really don't want to, then you just start something new. Um, yeah.
I'm happy you think that. Does that mean we can all get a download link?
I
Preserve the
mean,
history.
people who ask me, I do give them download links. I have my old games available for download. Just people have to go
They're
through
not
me
that hard to
first to
find
get it.
though.
Huh?
They're not that hard. They're not that hard to find anymore,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, I mean, people
Pretty.
keep. I get messages pretty regularly about people who either ask for it or they found it. Like, man, I like your old games, and I'm like, I hate them. Okay, yeah, I think we have quite a lot of questions in the chat. So let me scroll back up and see if I can go to the earliest one. There's the female Wosu, gimmicks for Volvagians. Any thoughts about the Akala roster? Oh, I know this makes Deox happy.
Mm.
Yeah, the Akala roster is actually pretty much done. They're kind of divided between different houses and several different races, like the Wind Tribe and the Minish or Minish, however the heck you pronounce it. Um, yeah, I think the Akalin roster is like 99% done. I think there's like one or two unit slots that haven't been filled yet for them. They're actually one of the more fleshed out factions right now, even though they're so far in the future. Um,
I mean, it makes sense though. I mean, because they're the precursors to Hylians, essentially.
yeah, I'd rather work on Akala than Labrina right now. Akala's pretty cool. That whole period of time is pretty interesting. Lots of douchebags in power or fighting for power. And it's basically Hylia's origin story too. It's so weird how Hylia ended up becoming like such a main character in Nephy canon, considering like her humble origins. And
Well,
I'm like, yeah, I'll find a way to use Hylia. She's a Wizrobe thing, and now she's like a main character basically. I never would have predicted that.
her story is great though.
It's, I guess with that, I don't know, maybe freaking, the sixth
Half the
Princess
story.
Zelda will end up becoming like the best character somehow.
No, but I think people will appreciate her a lot more once they get the other half of the story, because they only have the douchey bitch that we see now. You
I
don't
hope
really
I
have it.
hope I hope people come to appreciate her. I mean, ultimately, I can only hope people come to appreciate all of Hyrule Conquest, but I'm pretty sure there's just always gonna be a. I mean, like with anything, there's always gonna be at least one person who's like, I don't like that, and then they don't care.
I mean, those people are okay because they're like, oh, I don't care, so I'm not gonna stick around. And then you have the people that stick around and they still hate it.
Yeah.
It's like a drug addict. It's like a drug addict.
Like a drug addict. I guess I technically never answered who's the best villain in Nephi canon. That's so hard.
Ganondorf and Hylia. Done. Deal.
Is Hylia really a villain though?
Yeah,
She's an
yeah,
antagonist.
I would say. I mean, the definition of a villain is.
There are no villains in Nephi canon, only antagonists.
Wow.
Technically, well, I mean,
You're technically right, but
I don't know. I hesitate to say Majora isn't villain. Well, I don't know. Yeah, no, Majora is even kind of just antagonistic. I don't know, because it depends. Again, it depends on what you mean. To channel, my inner Jordan Peterson, depends on what you mean by villain. Because in my mind, villain is just like, I don't know. I guess villain and antagonist are synonymous.
I don't think villain is a good term due to its implications.
Yeah, antagonist just technically means like it's the person who's hostile towards you.
Yeah.
It does not assume motivation. Whereas villain kind of just assumes it just assumes the individual in question is just in the wrong. I mean, you can have a villain who thinks they're right, but they're actually in the wrong. But there are antagonists in Nephi canon that actually are in the right.
Yeah.
Like, I guess you could say Hylia is in the right. I guess it's open for debate. You could argue her methods, but Hylia is kind of in the right despite some of the terrible things she does. So is she really a villain? If she's right, I would say nah. She's more of an antagonist.
I wouldn't say she's in the right though. Even what is considered right is highly subjective. But I would say it's understandable. It's justified in a way. But I wouldn't say it's right.
Yeah, I mean, I can even argue that Ganondorf. Well, I guess it's like you said. It depends on your values. Like Ganondorf's motivation is the preservation of his species. Like that's basic biology.
Yeah.
It takes a very strange kind of person to be like, nah, fuck my species. Well, actually, no. There's a lot of people I know that hate humans, so never mind.
It's all a matter of perspective, right? Like,
yeah.
for example, if Ganondorf was the main character, he was the character we spent the most time with, then Link, for example, would be the antagonist.
Yeah.
It really depends on this perspective you're telling. Obviously, you have stories where the protagonist is the antagonist of the plot. Like, that happens, right?
Yeah.
But we usually, like, okay, let's take a relatively, like, recent example. Breaking Bad, right? A lot of people
Yeah,
watch Breaking Bad.
that's actually a great example.
Yeah,
Walter White is the
yeah,
villain.
yeah, he is, like, we know he's the villain, but we still sympathize with him, and I think that's largely due to him. Well, he's charismatic, but he's also multifaceted, but he's also the protagonist.
Yeah.
So we naturally
Yeah, he's
gravitate
not the
towards him.
hero of that story, but he is the protagonist, and he's not the
Yeah,
antagonist of that story, but he is the villain. Or I think I worded
that's
that right. Maybe I worded that wrong. I don't know. I'm tired. You know what I'm saying. And
yeah,
I trust the audience to be smart enough to know what I'm saying too.
yeah. That's kind of, I think, the role of the protagonist kind of
I mean,
heavily present.
there are points in Hyrule Conquest where you are playing as Ganondorf and the Gerudo, so I guess he temporarily is a protagonist.
Yeah,
Um, so I guess to kind of answer that question, I guess who's the best antagonist in Nephy canon? Ugh.
you decide.
I
That,
like a lot
no,
of
that's the
them.
answer. That's the answer. You decide.
That's the answer. You just. Well, I mean, I think the
Yeah.
question was directed at me, in particular. So
You don't know.
I guess it's easier to answer who's the least interesting antagonist. Maybe Sulcaris actually. Sulcaris is kind of low on my list, and I don't hate Sulcaris.
You wrote an entire arc on her.
Yeah, I feel well because
He's been
Sulcaris.
doing that in arc for like 15 years.
Sulcaris and Demo, well, because Sulcaris and Demogo, they're both I think just because they're so petty, both of them, they're very petty.
Are they?
Yeah, their motivations are very petty. Demoko is just
I
like
do
I
believe.
want to do what I want, and then Sulcaris is like, you hurt me, bro. That's kind of their. That's kind of their. Oh,
I
I
don't
guess
want to start.
Mido's an antagonist. I guess he's my least favorite.
I don't. I don't want to start a whole debate about all the multiple forms of immortality here again. But if you were to become an immortal person in terms of physical health, then you probably start to go a bit crazy after
Yes,
the
I've
first few
always
thousand
argued
years.
that immortality would drive people crazy. I've always had that stance.
So I mean, from that perspective, I mean, say that something is very petty. I'm not really sure if you could argue that their motivations were to be petty in this circumstance, but
Yeah, Exo
then again, I
defending my
well,
own
I always
story against myself.
no, but I'm trying. What I'm trying to say here. What am I trying to say? I'm thinking of multiple things at the same time. This is not good.
Actually, I know who my favorite Nephi antagonist in Hyrule Conquest is. I don't know why I didn't think of it at first. Probably Ganon, the Moblin Ganon. He's like such a short and simple story. And it's also most of that story. It's told from his perspective, so he's the protagonist too.
No, but if you think from the character's perspective, it starts to make sense, right? And that's for me, at least for me personally, it's important that characters make decisions that would make sense for them, right? That
Yeah.
you need to get the idea that the character has thought about this, thought about doing this. It's not for the sake of moving the plot forward. I mean, sometimes it can be. Of course, you want the plot to move forward at some point, but that's not the. It shouldn't be for the fact I'm gonna kill this character because it's nice for the plot. It's like no. You have to think from the character's perspective. Does it make sense that the character would think this way? You know, you have to keep it in character, and I think that's one of the most important aspects of storytelling. But maybe I'm just an inferior being when it comes to knowledge about how to tell a story.
No,
But
keeping a
for me,
character consistent I think it should be a pretty high priority, unless like the character is schizophrenic by their nature or something. But
Consistent.
then the character
I
being
mean,
schizophrenic would be consistent because they're
I mean,
schizophrenic.
it depends what you mean with consistent.
Well, it's like you said, like if they make a decision that that character wouldn't make, like Sulcaris probably wouldn't make. Let me think of an example with Sulcaris. She was brought up, like, or Demoko. Like Demoko wouldn't just start sharing all of his magic and shit with everyone.
No, probably not. No, but I mean, characters can obviously go through development, right? Although people don't change that quickly, so it should be usually quite faint. And if it's gonna be a larger change, it has to be a long process as well. So
Yeah,
like,
that's like I think what most
like
people
I'm
complained
obviously
about with.
stating my opinion. I'm obviously stating my opinions here before people start raging. It's like, EXO, shut the fuck up. You know nothing about story.
I don't know. You might know
But
even more than me.
Where's Diox? Can you give some input on my findings, my opinions?
well, I didn't hear those findings because I was on the toilet. But...
Oh, well, great.
Mm,
Oh man, I'm like really falling far behind on the chat.
I thought you were here to support me,
yeah, I'm
Diox. I
supporting
thought
you.
we were friends.
Yeah, I support
Oh
you.
yeah, he's supporting me from the toilet. God damn.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough about how Conquest is boring. Let's talk about something interesting.
Like what?
Diox tells something about. No, Diox should tell us one of those stories from the Geek Store. All on live stream. Let's go. Drum roll.
All right, it's Deox story time. We'll somehow tie this to
Grab,
Zelda.
grab your hot chocolate, kids. It's time for a story.
I've tried to think of what to tell them. Oh yeah, I can tell. I can tell about the body pillow.
Oh,
Yeah. This is the one you told us last week, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, he told us the premise and then he left.
Yeah.
Of
So
course,
basically-
right as you bring that up, freaking YouTube says we have connection issues.
Awesome. It's even too toxic for YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube says we have connection issues. I guess we'll oh, the chat seems to. I don't know. Yeah, it says error. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, viewers will experience ... So yeah, I don't know if we're still live or not.
We should just end it there. It will be
Just
like
end
that,
it there. I mean, if you
Yeah,
guys
yeah.
want to end the stream, I guess we can end it there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, but here's the thing. That will be the joke, right? It's like when Tyrion. Once I brought a jackass and a honeycomb into a brothel, and then we never hear the rest of the story. That's kind of how it's gonna be.
All right. Well,
Story
I
end.
guess when it reconnects, we'll go. There's quite a few questions. I guess I could go back to the Q&A. Actually, let me ask. Can people still hear us in the chat? Because YouTube says I'm not connected anymore, but I don't know. It seems like people in the chat aren't acting like the stream is connected. So unless it's just that delay. Oh, someone said restart. Oh, someone says we're still on. Okay, I guess we're still live, even though YouTube says I'm not. So, whatever.
Oh, you can answer the Q&A because I'm eating my dinner as we speak.
Oh,
You can
okay.
answer some questions.
All right, let's go. Because I did see quite a few questions, but now they're way back up. Wow, I missed a lot of the chat. Holy crap. Someone's asking, or Loopy's asking, the Cult of Aghanim's Titan. I'm not sure. I had an idea, and then I'm like, nah, I don't want that to be it. So I'm not entirely sure.
I know who their Titan is.
Who?
It's called Not Playable Faction.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, the Cult of Aghanim is the first faction. If a faction's to get demoted to a minor faction, they're the first on the chopping block. So, but if they remain playable, I'm not sure who their Titan will be. I've kind of struggled with that faction in terms of making them viable. Okay, there's the best villain question. So, let's see what's the next one. Will Volvagians lay eggs? Yes, they do lay eggs. In terms of a gameplay mechanic, they probably just have a building where their eggs, their clutches are kept kind of like the Lizalfos. I don't know. Maybe I'll have them like the Goma Queens where they physically lay eggs. I can go ahead and animate that in gruesome detail. There's the Ognum question. Clearly, Onyx is the most memorable Zelda villain. Well, he's more memorable than Calamity Ganon. Onyx's appearance is kind of memorable with his freaking, KKK helmet. He's got a very distinct appearance and design. He's got the freaking pointy helmet. That's when I was a kid and I first played the Oracle games. I'm like, and the thing is, that wouldn't be surprising because look at the Wizrobes in the second Zelda game. You can't tell me they did not get that design from the freaking KKK hoods. Like, Japan is weird, man. Then again, Japan doesn't have like the same like cultural attachment to that like America does. So I guess it's not surprising Japan would like take designs from something that's really maligned in the United States. But so yeah, well, now YouTube's probably just gonna kick me off for even mentioning that. But Onyx had a very memorable design, even though he has like no character at all. I think he really is just like, he just laughs and he's like, aha, I got Din, and then you kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Baron actually has a bit more going on for such a simple game. See, Girahim was a pervert, probably. Even though I criticize Girahim as a villain a lot, he's pretty consistent with like the medieval portrayal of like a demon. And I mean,
he's a demon, so
yeah, he's called a demon in Skyward Sword, but I don't know if they mean like a Western demon or an Eastern demon because they're very different, and depending on because yeah, in the West when you say demon, it means something very specific. In Japan, if you say Oni, it's like just a weird like creature, like an ogre. Deox probably knows more about that than me, so he can correct me if I'm completely wrong about that.
yeah, like no, but Oni is not like a demon in our sense. That would be something else.
No, if I'm correct, an Oni is just like a weird monster or any weird monster or creature.
No, it's an ogre, specifically an ogre.
Yeah, well, so it's more like a Nephilim then. Nephy the Oni. Yeah, whereas a demon is basically, in from the Western perspective, a demon is a passion, and whether it was intentional or not, Girahim comes off as like a very passionate, a being ruled utterly. Oh, actually, it seems like he's not like a demon himself, but he gives into like demons, which I guess he does give in a demise, but like, he basically is pulled between a bunch of different directions, and he's borderline schizophrenic. He doesn't have, I don't know where I was going with this. I guess I was kind of defending Girahim for a second there. But it's because someone in the chat said Girahim was a pervert. I'm like, he probably was, just because of his, intentional or not, his kind of demonic personality.
Aren't living creatures just by definition perverts? So isn't that a bit of a redundant remark?
I don't know if you can apply that label to animals.
I mean, this depends on how you define, like, what is a pervert? When is someone a pervert? For example,
yeah, there has to be some kind of cultural standard in order for that to exist.
When someone has sexual urges, is that the definition?
Not exactly. There has to be cultural standards, and then perversion would basically be breaking those cultural standards.
Right. Okay. then it wouldn't.
And
It's
Deox is like,
technically
no,
No.
I'm gonna fight this.
Here we go. Here we go.
Now, pervert is essentially a term. Like, I agreed that what you said, but now pervert is usually a term used to ostracize people that are different from you, so that you feel better about yourself, which goes in hand with most things, honestly. Especially in modern society, everyone is like, "Oh, their people are such perverts," but I know they're looking up their fucked up shit on their phone. No one is looking. I'm not stupid.
Okay, I'll agree. I will agree with you in the sense that there's a lot of hypocrisy.
Yeah, basically what I'm saying while I'm eating my burger here, that it's
Oh, I'm eating a
it's
burger
term
tonight.
it's
You
a
finally
term
took my advice
rooted
from a week ago to get a burger.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay,
yes.
let's see what the next question is. What does Nephy prefer, Midna or Paya? Midna? Like, hands down. Both in Nintendo canon, and maybe, I don't know, Nephy canon. Midna's now like a weird alien, so maybe not. Yeah, most people don't even know that I've completely redesigned Midna. Now she's like a weird, like, X-Files alien. That's probably gonna get me lynched.
Oh, can you post it on the? Can you post it on the public?
I'm pretty sure I did post it on the public Discord a few months
Do it
ago.
again. Yeah, but do it.
Alright, I'll do it again after the stream. I posted it on the. I posted one of the images recently. Like, I can't remember where though, just a few days ago. But yeah, I completely redesigned Midna and the Tweely. They're all gonna be just monsters and weird aliens. Cause I don't know, I'm insane. I'm just digging myself a bigger hole. So I guess in Nephi canon, maybe Paya, just because Midna's like more inhuman. I don't know.
That's species.
In Nintendo canon, like Midna hands down, Paya is a fucking joke in Nintendo canon. Literally, I'm pretty sure they intentionally made her a fucking joke, and they would agree. Like, the people who made the game, if I talk to them and I'm like, man, Paya's a fucking joke, they'd be like, yeah, that was the point. So I think I answered that question. Let's see. I'm sorry for asking another random faction question. No, go ahead and ask as many random faction questions as you want. I actually like answering questions. But if you could answer me one more question from a lurking nerd, what are the gimmicks and weaknesses of Akala and the Wizrobe? The Wizrobe are probably easier to kind of describe. Wizrobe, I guess I would describe as like a glass cannon faction, kind of. Hopefully, by the time we get to the Wizrobe, Exodarian will be able to work his magic and add in teleportation.
Is that a question, or
Alright, the Wizrobes are far off, so you don't have to worry about it. But Wizrobes will have... Wizrobes, they'll probably be like map control, would probably be their gimmick, because they'll be able to teleport. So I would say that, yeah, their gimmick is probably like map control. They can
More glass cannons than anything, though. They're fragile as hell.
they have a lot of different damage types that they can deal. I would say their units are very highly specialized, so they're probably really good at countering. Like, say you're going against the Gorons, and, you know, they basically take next to no damage from your pyromancers. Well, just make aquamancers not aquamancers. I can't remember if they have ice. Oh, the Chillfoss, the ice guys, and there you got something that can deal damage to Gorons. So Wizrobes will probably be a very good like counter faction with good map control. Most of their units are mages, though, so they have like almost no melee units, basically.
So when they get whacked by mace, they die.
Yeah, when they get whacked by a mace, they die. They have like really low armor values.
Yeah, they're birds.
So they're probably a faction that would be really good on teams. Like
Um,
if you're teamed up with like a faction with very bad mages like the Hylians, or it's another faction they'd be good with. They'd probably be good on a team with the Goma. Or no,
oh,
they'd be like really good on a team with the Dark Nuts. Like I'm imagining now like two players, like one's a Dark Nut and one's the Wizrobes. They have like a Dark Nut army and then just fucking army of like rainbow mages like behind their army. Like that'd probably be pretty unstoppable. So but I think you were trying to say something and I was interrupting you, or
well, before I ask my next question, um, in terms of teleportation, is it as easy as it sounds? Like just want units to teleport to a location? Like
yeah,
how,
yeah, and you know they'd have
as
some
an
kind of
ability,
animation.
as an ability or something, I would assume it's gonna be,
Yeah, it'd
or
probably be
how
an ability. You just click on it and then you left click on the location and then poof.
okay, then it's becoming, because then we're talking about abilities, more about getting in abilities than rather than anything else.
Yeah. I guess we'll worry about that when we get to them.
I was having a discussion. I don't remember with who it was, but it was regarding the. Let me look it up. But it had to do with the Zora. Was there uh, let me look it up. Oh, it was with Rolf, and we are just talking about this feature that was going to be implemented. I believe. I believe that was the instigator of the discussion or conversation. Um, something about
What
the
was
phone.
it?
Well, it was it. I'm looking up exactly what he mentioned because I remember it was something related to a new feature that was going to be implemented for
Was
Zero
it Stan that
AD.
brought it
And
up?
no, well, no, it was Rolf. I'm just.
Rolf. So some new feature that he thought the Zora. Well, I think Rolf is actually in the
Oh yeah.
chat.
Oh no, this he was mentioning building snapping.
Oh yeah, actually yeah, Stan actually brought that up to me. I actually think yes, I will be using building snapping for something. I don't think it'll be the Zora though.
But that reminded me a little bit of the idea you had for the Zora aqueducts, right? Because you had
Oh,
in the original Zora video, you had these, well, semi plots. They were technically the towers of the walls, right?
yeah.
Of the aqueducts. And then
Oh,
what you
okay,
had is
yes,
you
I see
could
where this is
click them.
going.
Yeah, you could click them and you could upgrade them. But you said I don't like that. I want actually a worker to click on a building, and then when you have the silhouette on the field, that it snaps to the
Yes.
tower.
Yeah.
And that was what the system was supposed to be like. Is that still canon right now? Is that still
N-
core, or have you changed your mind?
no, I liked your idea where the aqueducts just generate territory, and when the aqueducts get destroyed, the territory goes away, and that's then the buildings just start to fall apart or they stop working.
So you want the thing as it is right now with the aura and stuff instead, because
No,
that could
for
work
the
as well.
Zora, I want the aqueducts to generate territory, and the buildings have to be placed close to the aqueducts.
Well, that's already how it works right now.
Well, the thing I want is I want it so the aqueduct has to connect to like a civil center or a certain
Oh,
building, and then if part of the aqueduct gets destroyed, all of the aqueducts that are not connected basically become they stop generating territory and they start to decay. They
all right.
become neutral, I guess, and then you have to like
That's the
reconnect the aqueduct. That's how I wanted the aqueducts to work.
Okay, so the only thing that's still left is the thing where it actually checks if it's linked up to the civil
Yeah.
center properly. That's gonna be an interesting thing to think about
Yeah, if
how
you want to
to.
work on that, be my guest. But I would consider
Well,
it
not yet, but I was
medium to
thinking
low
when
priority right now.
because the thing was brought up, right? Because the snapping feature got brought up, got me thinking again about the aqueduct system and the way you explained it in the original video of the Zora. But that was quite a while ago, so I was
I'll
a bit.
probably I haven't decided yet, but I might use the snapping feature for the Kokiri and Laneru, or like those kind of buildings where they have like three little add-ons. I might use the snapping for that. I haven't decided
Well,
yet.
it seems to me that what the snapping does right now is it's just a hotkey and it snaps buildings close to other buildings. So it doesn't snap it over other.
Oh,
It
okay.
doesn't
Then that's
snap it
that.
to.
Okay, I must have misunderstood what Stan described to me. Then that's not what I'm thinking then. But I might be able to still find a use for something like that.
Well, the fact that snapping is being put in, I could probably, if I really want to, I could figure it out myself. It's just not really been a priority at all. But if they are putting in something like it anyway, I could take a look at it and then see if we can, you know, amplify it or edit it
Yeah, I guess
to our
we'll
own
look at
liking.
it when they add it in then.
Yeah, but there's so many things to do. Honestly, I'm
Yeah.
currently putting it all of my out of my mind. It's not. There's no point in thinking about any of this right now because the list just keeps, you know,
Keeps getting bigger and
you know,
bigger.
yeah, it's becoming quite bloated at this point, and the AI is
Feature
what
creep.
matters for me right now.
I would agree. The
And
AI.
the next mission, and the next mission.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, maybe I'll
have
start on the
mentioned
next mission before I go into the fairies.
that the autonomous hives are not working, but I think it's not because of the script
No, it's
because
because they.
I
Yeah.
cannot fathom what the script would break on that, but
No,
it's
I think I'm
probably
pretty sure I know why. It has to do
it's the
with the
limit, right?
It has to, yeah, it has to do with something I've changed so the Lizzlefloss could build more than one civil center. So I fixed something for the Lizzlefloss, but I broke the civil centers for all the other factions in that process. So I'm pretty sure I know what's causing it.
Yeah,
Um,
because if that hotfix doesn't go out, it's almost impossible to finish the mission.
I'll release a hotfix sometime in the next few days. Then, if yeah, if I can figure out what's actually causing that.
Well, I would I would just play the mission and see if that's
Yeah,
the actual problem. You have the most recent version. I still I have downloaded 0.6, but I haven't installed it. I still have a version that's a tad older. Although technically it shouldn't even be older, but ju just for just to make sure, I'll install it the way that everyone else is supposed to install it, so I get the exact same experience, I suppose.
yeah.
But
Alrighty.
yeah, that's my
Well,
questions for now. But I will interrogate you in the near future, so don't worry.
I'm sure you will. I guess I'll look for more questions because there's quite a lot this time.
Where's Deox? Is he still eating his burger?
I finished it. I'm just having a food coma. And I'm
You're
here.
gonna
Nephy,
have.
you think Mifa is better than Mido? Do you mean in? I need. I guess it for the future, people need to specify a Nephi canon or Nintendo canon. In Nintendo canon, no, Mifa's worse than Mido. Mifa isn't even a thing. Mifa's like barely an identity. She's
Shy,
just it's just a name
shy,
of a fish
shy
and that's it.
waifu.
She's
Shy
like not
wish,
even a character.
yeah, shy wish waifu bone the player. That's her.
In Nephi canon though, I actually would say Mifa's better than Mido. I hate Mido in Nephi canon. He needs to die. And Mifa's not even really that interesting in Nephi canon. I think. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully that answers that question. Let's see. Okay, I need to know. Has it been? It has been a mystery for a long time. How do the Gorons reproduce in your canon? It's a secret to everyone.
Yeah,
that'll
Neph.
just be that'll be a running joke until the day I die.
How do they do that, Neph?
Nah,
Can you explain to us?
that's a secret I'm gonna keep until
Ah,
maybe I'll
okay.
have it in my will, reveal how Gorons reproduce.
Wow. Is this the pervert thing we were just talking about, Diox?
Yeah,
Should we report him?
I think it's potentially dangerous.
I mean, honestly, if we're gonna mention the fact, okay, so a perversion would be if it's harmful. Would that be a good definition, or would it just be that it's outside
I mean,
what is considered
I guess
normal?
you could define it like that, but that's not people. That's not how people use the term. So it's
No,
matter.
well, I know the term. I've gotten annoyed by the term from the anime culture. It really bothers me that they put this staple onto characters that that they're always perverted or whatever,
I
while
mean,
it's actually
Japan is pretty.
Oh, we have a really interesting question in the.
Oh, take it.
Yeah, I think even Deox will appreciate this question. Didn't Hylia commit genocide, then felt bad about it, and now wants to start trouble again? How is she not a villain? I would definitely say that she has done antagonistic things and villainous things, and from the perspective of I guess not the narrator. Well, yeah, definitely from the perspective of the narrator, which is Midna, she is a villain. But let me let me actually answer that question with another question, which probably will also get me kicked off of YouTube because of the subject matter. But
Ooh,
if let's say hypothetically Nazi Germany won World War
oh
II,
boy.
or Imperial Japan won World War II, and they wrote the history books, would their actions retroactively been seen as villainous? Like say Japan won and hypothetically conquered the United States. Would Pearl Harbor be seen as like this villainous thing, or would the history books read like, oh, we led a glorious preemptive strike against the Americans, and you know we destroyed their navy, and it gave us the advantage to conquer them? Like most people nowadays, including Germans and Japanese people, I'm making a really broad assumption, but most people would they see Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan as like villainous and like they did a bunch of bad things, but if history went a little bit differently, I suspect it would look the other way around. So in the context of Hyrule Conquest, you know, depending on how things turned out, Hylia, if she was the one writing the history book, she would have been like, look, the Moblins were destroying my people. They're a bunch of filthy pigs. They were destroying the land. They were going to kill all the Hylians, and the world would have fallen into ruins. I did the right thing by burning them all down and saving everyone. Like, so in that context, is she still a villain? It's kind of it's kind yeah that's kind of that's the problem of modernity is we don't know who our villains are anymore.
You can you can reframe it to make it even more simple and less yikes. So okay, so let's say you live in a house, right?
Yeah.
And there's an extremely tall tree. Let's say it's a pine tree outside of your house. One day you go and check on it, and you find out it's infested by ants and entire, right? And you realize there's a very possible danger that the tree might snap and crush your property, damage a lot of stuff. So you cut down the tree. Are you an antagonist?
You are to the ants.
Yeah, yeah, you are. And you would say, yeah, but they're just ants, and that's kind of how moblins.
Yeah.
And
The Hylians and Hylia herself, they probably view the Moblins as just barely above animals.
yeah,
Obviously,
and,
you could argue. You could argue. You know, the Moblins aren't just animals; they're
and,
sentient. But we're
and,
talking about a medieval world that doesn't even have human rights yet.
and I'll say I agree that it was probably it's a thing to do, but I'll add on to that by saying that if she didn't do anything, the Moblins probably stomped the Hylians in the long game. So you can choose, really. It's a very it's a very gray it's a very gray area.
Yeah, that's why I
Uh,
kind of joked earlier. Like, there's no villains in Hyrule Conquest, just
but
antagonists.
if she didn't, but yeah, like if she didn't intervene in the way she did, it would have very real consequences for her people, and that's kind of what defines her character. That she is willing to do this extremely horrible, or she's capable of committing extremely terrible atrocities for what she believes is right. And I think she is aware, and there was probably a part of her back then that was aware that it was a terrible thing to do, but she probably weighed in the different outcomes, and she came to the conclusion that it was the best thing for her people. And I that still doesn't justify what she did, but it kind of explains it. And I think that kind of what Hylia is all about is that you don't necessarily need to agree with her actions, but you can really understand why she did those things.
Yeah.
I think that's a very defining characteristic of
I
her.
I would actually say there definitely is there is at least one villain in Hyrule Conquest, and that'd probably be Akazu, because in the end he's doing nothing for no one's good, like for the good of no one, including himself. He's just he gets to a point where he's just fuck everything, including myself. So I would definitely say he becomes pretty villainous because there's really nothing redeeming about him in the end. Like even his, I mean, I guess you could say, well, he still was human, or I guess Hylian, but he was, he was human at one point, and there was a path that led to that where he wasn't a complete monster. But let's say ultimately he's kind of less sympathetic
Yeah.
because his motivations are. I personally feel like most of the well, that's why I said earlier I feel like Sulcaris is pretty low on my list because she's not really doing anything for the good of anyone.
Yeah.
She's
And,
doing something completely out of selfishness, which that's usually a key trait of a villain, is they're doing something for no one's benefit except for possibly their own. Same thing with Demoko. He has no one else's concern. I mean, they lie to themselves. He's lying to himself. He's probably like, I got the Oka and making things better for them, making things better for Hyrule. But in his heart, Demoko's only doing what he's doing for himself, out of fear and pride.
I also would like to add that when it comes to the genocide of the Blaine, that blood is not only on Hylia's hand.
Yeah.
I don't. You can go. Technically, that part of the story you can already kind of read up on it. So if you want, you can go and check it out. But it's a very important plot point later on. But it's not entirely on her hands. And that's something that will play a very important role later on.
Now that we've contributed to postmodernism and confused people from black and white further and caused society to question things and fall apart even more.
But yeah,
I do.
it's
I really like that question though.
It's kind of a question like if you were somewhat manipulated into doing something that you knew was terrible, but you were led to believe that it was absolutely necessary. It kind of makes the entire thing way more complicated, right? It adds a lot of depth to that decision more than you originally thought it would have, and that's kind of the thing with Hylia and the genocide that she committed.
Yeah, and they started to do that with Ganondorf and Nintendo canon. There was just that little nugget of he was raised in a shitty environment and his people like coveted the glory that the Hylians had. That gives him a nice little wrinkle. He's not just a complete monster who wants to conquer the world, and then demise became a thing. Although we've argued about the whole curse, so
yeah. No,
I don't know.
following up on that just quickly in the chat that I saw someone mention in the chat. The thing with Malice and the other Druth is that you can't really apply mortal understanding of villainry and good and stuff to them because they're just inherent to their nature. They are just acting out. They're acting out the role that they have.
Yeah,
so you can't really like is gravity evil?
Is
if
gravity?
you jump off a cliff and yeah, is gravity evil if you jump off a cliff? And
Yeah, the
is gravity like no?
demons are they're really fascinating as far as how much of it is nature and how much of it is. Yeah, we could get into a whole huge theological thing about that. I don't know if I'm quite awake enough for that
Yeah, but
though.
if you
I've
Drew,
actually to I guess it's not a complete tangent, but for the last like 2 years, I really have started to question like the concept of free will to the
yeah,
annoyance of my fiance.
well, I
How much of humans is, and the thing is, I'm not a materialist, and I kind of laugh at like the the pure biologist. Basically, the current perspective of like a lot of like evolutionary biologists is that we're basically just we're programs, and we really have no control over ourselves, and we're just acting out our biology. And I kind of laugh at that. But the thing is, I might actually kind of buy that. So now I'm getting kicked off of YouTube. Nephy doubts free
no,
will.
I think it's a very interesting like idea to explore, and I'm not completely sure if I would buy into determinism. But the thing is, I think it's at the same time it's somewhat arrogant to believe that we, out of all the organisms on this, are somehow above our
Well,
biology. I think that's a very arrogant
the
uh,
thing that made me start
idea.
to lean in that direction was, oddly enough, when I was looking into freaking symbolism. And like, for an example, you have no control over where you're born, your parents, and even the language, your first language. You usually have no control over it, and language itself dramatically affects how you think.
Yeah,
Like, if I had learned Japanese before I'd learned English, like, I'd probably would have a very different psychology. I'd be like a completely different person. And basically the language determined certain factors about me that were completely outside of my control.
yeah, yeah,
It was so like how I mean, I
yeah.
guess this is something, philosophers have been arguing for
I
centuries, and we'll probably never get an answer, but I really have questioned the kind of modern acceptance of, complete free will.
Yeah, and bringing this back to the truth, like I have said this before, and I think if you're kind of you want to understand the truth, and where they're coming from, like I said before, just think of them like gravity. I think gravity is a pretty decent analogy, like a materialistic analogy, because you wouldn't
Yeah.
really consider gravity evil for acting out the things the gravity does. It just is. There are reasons for why gravity behaved the way it does, but you can't really apply our moral compass to it. It just kind of is, and it acts out the way it is to do, and that's kind of how the truth. Yeah, they're associated with aspects of our psychology, but that's more due to how the world is built up, more than anything. But it's still they're more like a natural phenomenon.
If we're talking about Nephi canon Druth, then we're really getting into symbolism and we're leaving biology behind.
Yeah, yeah,
Even though I'd
obviously.
argue symbolism is influenced by biology.
But I would say the Druth are metaphysical aspects of reality in Hyrule Conquest.
Yes,
Similar, yeah,
exact. That's the probably the simplest way I'd describe them. Yeah.
yeah, and that's kind of like, you know, if you take a what and they are aspects of reality, and then it's similar to aspects of our reality in our world,
Yeah,
or the
exactly. They're the personality behind. Oh, I'm probably gonna lose some of my audience. I feel like I say that a lot. I feel like I say I'm
yeah,
gonna lose my audience, but because I'm gonna start bringing up some esoteric stuff. But like they're like pagan gods. Like, for example, like Thor, he's the personality behind certain aspects of nature. And whether you're a materialist or not, human psychology treats things in nature as if they have personality. You treat your car as if it has a personality. We can debate whether it actually has one or not, but the fact of the matter is human psychology treats everything in nature as if it has a personality. and that is what things like angels and demons and pagan gods and stuff are. They are the personalities behind things that don't have a clear material like cause or manifestation.
I mean, it's something that is very inherent to our nature, and we do it all the time. That's why we see faces, inanimate objects.
Yeah,
It's in our nature.
and I'm willing to debate with you or anyone, but I'm firmly in the camp that the personalities actually do have some form of agency. Like I know I immediately just lost like half my audience, but like yes, I would argue Santa Claus has agency independent of humans. Now we're getting into really esoteric shit, and now we're living up to the title of the stream.
Yeah, I mean
I made every materialist read.
Now we prescribe personalities to things because, well, it's a more comforting thing. We like to prescribe. You see it all the time. Like, why are boats always female?
Yeah.
And yeah,
The thing is, I would argue that it's less prescription and more human interpretation of something.
Yeah.
Yes. I could go on record. Nephy is arguing that cars have some kind of personality in reality. The animists were right.
Crazy, huh?
I'm oversimplifying it, but
I'm kind of leaning towards the notion that as long as there's acknowledgement, it has some substance, and that's kind of how like.
yeah.
If
Well,
people, if you,
oh, go
if
on.
you,
Sorry.
No, let's say the car ride. If me and a friend or something, we're driving in the car, and let's say it's my car, and I say this car is a piece of shit.
Oh.
Or I say, oh, I'm having issues starting up the car, and and I tell my friend, oh, my car is always cranky in the morning, and my friend agrees. He is someone participating in some abstract form of personality that I've created for the car, thus making it somewhat more real.
Could you hold that thought for just a second? I have to be right back.
Yes.
Entertain the chat for like 30 seconds. I'll be right back.
So, yeah, crazy. Basically, I mean, at the end of the day, you don't really need to do. You don't need to say that any of it is real or whatnot. That's not really the interest part. It's just an interesting thought experiment. But bringing this back to Hyrule Conquest.
Okay, I'm back.
Just bringing this kind of back though to the Hyrule Conquest. That's kind of how the Druth are. Not just the Druth, but you can actually.
Well, I would argue that's how every single character in any story actually is.
Yeah.
Any fictional or even like real stories, the story you're telling someone is a psychological representation based on something that actually happened in a materialistic sense. Like that's how humans are. Like, I mean, I really wouldn't mind getting into some esoteric bullshit. If you're up to it, we'll probably lose the audience though.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, huh?
Here's an interesting question though, because I've heard people say, why are we putting so much thought into the Zelda mod? we're prescribing personality to something.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what humans do. They see personalities in everything. If you're a materialist, I'm more than willing to accept the argument that is just projection. But like, for me, the thing that convinces me is, does the thing actually have an effect on reality? Like, I would argue Santa Claus has an actual tangible material effect on reality. Humans all over the world freaking dress up as Santa Claus, they act him out, they play out the Santa Claus story, they get the presents for, their family and friends and kids and stuff. Like, clearly Santa Claus is having a tangible effect on the world. He doesn't have a physical body, but there is a personality. We can recognize that personality. We can point at an image and be like, that's Santa Claus. And we can act out Santa Claus, and it has an actual effect on the world. So I would argue, yes, the personality of Santa Claus is real.
Is this the principality
Yes,
course I
this
signed up
yes
for?
for anyone in the audience, this is principalities in a nutshell.
Also known as archetypes.
Yes, archetypes. I feel like archetype is probably a better word to use because principality really seems like it's not used anymore,
Yeah, and
except for
it
like
has that.
very specific people.
And the thing is, I think another reason, yeah, it also has, and I would not disagree that it has a certain Judeo-Christian connotation to it, and I think
Well,
that,
yeah, that specific word was introduced by the
yeah.
Christians or
So
Catholics, if you want to be technical.
yeah, archetype is a very, it's a very similar term, but it has no kind of specific connotation to it.
Although,
It's
if you want to be
just,
technical, principality goes back to Rome. It actually
yeah, yeah.
predates. Like, principality just means everything built up around a principle. Like,
But it's just that if you talk about an archetype, it doesn't matter which context
yeah.
it is.
I'm more than
It's
happy to
a
use
it's
the
an
word archetype. I love the word principality, so I use it. And actually, I would rather use the word principle because, well, no, principle is actually a little more specific. A mathematical term that actually that I stumbled on that someone else used, actually axiom. I kind of like that word
yeah.
too.
I've seen it been explained in different ways. I've heard metaphysical trope.
Metaphysical
Uh,
trope. I kind of like that one.
so there are a lot of terms for it. I think archetype. I tend to use archetype. I think it's
Well, Lovecraft
because
used the word archetype.
yeah, I
I
like
feel like
archetype because
Lovecraft actually really understood this concept and it horrified him.
everything horrified him.
Yeah. And the thing is, the concept is horrifying because the implications of something like a principality is, again, that we're not entirely ourselves. We're basically the components of higher consciousness. Like, we're body parts of Santa Claus when we act out Santa Claus.
Spooky.
We become the body of some kind of abstract entity. And hang on, I'll be back in a few more minutes. I'm sorry. This is the most unprofessional stream ever.
Scuffed stream. Scuffed stream. Yeah, someone actually asked the other day, like, I think it was after the stream last week, why are you guys assigning so much meaning to something so, what is stupid? Because it's fun. Like some people.
Okay,
No,
I'm back.
like, I think it's important to bring up because people ask me this all the time, like, why do you guys assign so much meaning to what is essentially a Zelda? Yeah, because it's fun.
Well,
It's
yeah, I guess at the end of the day, because it's fun.
yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it's fun. Like,
Um,
for example, some people really love riding the motorcycle in Hyrule Field. You know, they find it fun. It's the same thing. Just people find different things.
yeah, it's
There's
kind of hard to
something
argue
called
against because it's fun. I would try and come up with a different answer than that, but I guess I could fall back on that at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's it's a fun activity. I get, like, obviously you can say that it's more meaningful than that, but at the end of the day, I still think, you do it. Uh, is it always fun? No, but no.
I think
No, it's
to
not
fall
always
back on
fun.
to fall back to Jordan Peterson and say it's about feeling responsible about something, but having passion, I suppose. It's like you're putting effort into something, you might as well, you
Yeah.
know, really get invested into it. I mean, honestly, people go to work every day and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna make some money." But it's not really something you're really invested in. You don't wake up in the morning. Maybe some people do that wake up in the morning. It's like, yeah, yeah, another day of work. I'm so invested into this.
I
Although it's
mean,
also a bit dangerous to get invested into your workplace. So usually you find a hobby where you can get invested into to give some meaning, some kind of intrinsic meaning to your life. Although I suppose there are other ways of doing that as well. But
as far
you
as
are putting effort into something.
yeah, as far like I guess if people I don't know cuz I for the people that are like, why do you put so much thought and stuff into it? It's just because if I don't, then I it just feels like a waste of time. Like I feel like just playing a game on the surface level, having fun for a few hours and getting nothing else out of it is just a waste of time. I'm not faulting the people that are able to do that. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that fun is a waste of time. I'm saying for me personally, like I need more than that to actually like I guess to have fun.
Yeah, but that is fun too.
Yeah. I guess in
That's
order for me
why.
to have fun, I need more than just like the
Yeah,
basic
yeah.
level.
But
I
that
need more than
that
just
inher-
driving around on a motorcycle
Yeah,
and
but that is
laughing.
inherent. That is inherently of why having fun is such a subject state. Is because there's really no limit to what someone finds fun, which is why we see so much weird. And again, like that's just you don't you know some people don't need a lot of I would say depth to something to have fun with it, and that's perfectly
Yeah.
valid. I know that sounds really really elitist
Yeah,
when I
I'm
say it that
not
way, but
trying to sound elitist. I understand that it kind of
yeah,
it can come off that way, but
and
I
even
like I said,
and
I'm not trying to like say that people are freaking plebs for, just enjoying, a game
honestly,
for
I would say it's more of a good thing if you are able to find enjoyment in relatively simple things, dumb fun essentially.
well,
Then I
I've
would
I've always I've always said like throughout all my freaking I guess rants in the past, I've always said that I envy the person who can just like pick up a Zelda game and have fun. I've always envied that person because I can't do that. I need something more. I look on a person like that almost with jealousy. Like, man, it's so easy for you to just pick up something and enjoy it. Like, I envy that ability. So please don't take it the wrong way when I say that. You know, I'm not calling people
the thing
plebs.
is the thing is
Even
let's say
though that mentality can annoy me,
the
but
reason why usually, let's say when you rant about Zelda and it usually comes with odds with other people, is because it's the same principle. Let's say that I really enjoy kicking a ball around and I love kicking the ball so much, and then someone comes along and says that's fucking stupid. I feel kind of invalidated. That
uh,
like that I think that's a lot. I think that's the reason why when you go on the internet. Yeah, but you see it all the time, not on the internet only, but like in real life as well. When let's say you go and watch you really hated that movie, but other people really liked it, and you tell them I think the movie's stupid. Some people will say, oh well, not for everyone, right? And some people
yeah.
will get actually offended by that because to them it feels like their opinion is being invalidated.
Yeah, even though a random voice on the internet should not completely invalidate an opinion. I can
Speaking about
understand if, like,
unpopular opinions,
about what?
you go first.
I was just
You
saying,
go.
like, I can understand if, like, someone really liked a movie and they saw, like a 3 hour critical breakdown of the movie and then they feel like, maybe their opinion is, a little bit invalidated, but like if someone just comments like, "Man, this movie sucked," and you really liked the movie, I really feel like that should not affect a healthy person.
No, but
Especially
that,
because you
that's
can't
the
see
thing.
their face.
No, but no, I think it's perfectly healthy because we are social creatures and other people's opinions actually matter to us quite a bit because
Yeah,
we want to fit in and we want to fit in and we want to agree. So because when we agree, you gain acceptance.
I don't know. Maybe it's
Uh,
just because of how I was raised. I was raised in a household where both parents constantly mocked and criticized each other's interests and opinions. So I just kind of always grew up with this understanding that people like can mock and criticize the interests of other people and like still be married to them. Like I didn't until the internet was a thing. I didn't realize that like just criticizing something blatantly was a bad thing to do. Like what
I mean,
before the
you
internet,
s-
like I would tell my friends like, "Oh yeah, this game sucks ass," and they'd be
but
like, "Ah, whatever," and then we just
you see
go
it every
back to talking.
yeah, but you see it everywhere. Let's say a game that was hugely popular and was a commercial success, and you have the 3 hour breakdown of the game heavily criticizing it. Just look at the dislikes on that video.
Yeah.
It kind of proves the point. People feel invalidated and they band together to prove the person wrong. And then
Straight through
and by doing
numbers.
and by doing yeah, but by doing that they also feel like that they are invalidated because that guy's he's the stupid one because he's the only one that thinks that way. Well, I'm being constantly validated by tens or thousands of other, and that's why that happens. And I'm not saying wrong. I'm just pointing out that that's how it usually goes.
It's a pretty interesting dynamic the internet is enabled.
Yeah, I mean, you see it in real life as well. If you go and
Yeah,
watch a
that's
movie with a
true.
few friends,
I
you go and
really
watch a
must
movie.
have just lived in a bubble until I was like 15.
I mean, this has happened before when I went to the movies with a few friends and they all like talk about a movie and like, oh yeah, that was awesome, and I just told them it was fucking stupid. They don't like react. They don't react the way that people would do on the internet usually because they're
Yeah,
not
I've
related to me and all
never
that.
like I
But
said in real life, like all my friends, if they
but here,
enjoy a game
I
or a movie and I tell them nah, it was shit, they're just like, oh, okay, that sucks,
yeah. No,
and
but
then we
I can
move on.
but I've seen their face. I've seen them. They don't explicitly say it, but I can tell from their expression that it's kind of awkward.
Oh.
I make the situation awkward by saying that.
I guess I just know really cool people in my personal life then.
But it's like, and honestly, they are not wrong though, because here's the thing: you can examine your own reaction and say like, okay, I didn't like the movie. Clearly, my friends did. What am I contributing by shitting on what they like? Right?
Yeah.
So I'm being, I'm basically being a troglodyte with no social skills and ruining the mood. What gain?
You're being American.
Yeah, yeah. But then I do this all the time. I examine why I say things and if they're worth saying at all. And sometimes I realize that I'm actually being the idiot because, yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't like it, but did I really have to point it out when everyone is having a good time? Like, if I didn't say anything, no, everyone would just go on and be relatively content. You see what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like, yeah,
I
it's
see
like,
what you mean. I guess I've never been in a situation where I said something sucked and it like ruined the mood and everyone was upset. Most
yeah,
people seem to understand at the end of the day, it's a movie, it's a video game. I
Most
don't know.
people don't seem to understand, or I that sounds wrong. I think most people who are your friends should understand and want to know your opinion on something.
yeah, yeah. I'm not saying that it's not always the case that they don't want to listen to your opinion. But here's the thing: when someone is being negative, it inherently does something to the mood,
Yeah. I guess I
intention
can agree with that.
intentionally or not. It's like I'm not saying that they're being that they're being assholes, that they don't because they see my perspective or listen to my opinion. They might as well want to listen to it, but the thing is, I'm still ruining the mood. You can want something and it can still bring you down.
Yeah.
Happens all the time.
Be
So
careful what you wish for.
yeah, huge tangent, but I
Yeah, we
think
did go
that's
on a huge tangent. I don't even
but
remember what the original subject
nah,
was.
but bringing back this to Zelda though,
Oh yeah.
I think that's what happened all the time. Like when people were shitting on certain aspects of Zelda, is that because they really love it and
Yeah,
for them
well,
it ruins the mood.
as someone point like not someone, but like cuz Star Wars came out a few weeks ago and it's basically been like the only thing anyone talked about for 3 weeks. So, it's been background noise for me a lot and I've seen a lot of people complain like only Star Wars fans are upset that the movies suck and I'm like of course because they love it. If you don't love something, you're not going to care if it's bad. Like I don't give a shit about My Little Pony. If they suddenly like screwed up My Little Pony, I wouldn't care at all. I wouldn't even know it was screwed up cuz I don't pay attention to it. But like if for someone who loves My Little Pony and they screw it up, I can understand why they get freaking upset at it. I don't know why I picked that as an example. It's just the first thing that came to mind for some reason.
Yeah.
I guess it's because it's something I'm not interested in. But like anything, like that's why like generally the people who like tear things apart the most, they're people that actually love that thing in the first place. It's because
Yeah.
they feel like they've been turned on or something. I mean, that's. I mean, I don't like a lot of the new Zelda games because I really
Uh,
loved the old ones.
Not much to probably Exo's delight. I'm going to be to balance out me defending everything because I
Okay.
like being controversial. I also think the reason why this happens okay, so yes, let's take the technology discussion we've had in the Discord, yeah, where everyone brings up different arguments regarding technology, use of technology previously in the series, and then you respond, yeah, I think it's dumb, but people try to prove you wrong. I think that is also another aspect of this, because people are competing for resources, and what is the resource in that context?
Yeah, what's the resource? I'm
I'll tell you what the resource is. That is people's appreciation,
people's
and
appreciation.
in the sense that I'm more right than this person, so I am more intelligent. Or I am more
So you think it's ego
thought.
driven?
Yeah, because
Interesting.
it might be cynical, but I think humans, at the end of the day, we are glorified chimpanzees, and we compete over resources. It doesn't need to be tangible resources. It can
It's
be
a very
social.
materialistic argument.
Yeah, I know, but I think we are, you know, glorified chimpanzees. We've seen this behavior in season of the great apes, that they constantly are competing for acceptance, and I'm not saying people are bad for doing it. I do it myself. Why do we, for example, when someone is typing something in a chat, why are you correcting their language?
Do I correct people's
No,
language?
I'm saying, why do
or are you
people do
speaking
that?
generally?
Yeah, like generally, like when someone has a, they're